What's going on? It's so good to see you. In today's Jiu-jitsu video, we are going to be doing some drilling of both the spiral armbar and some mounted triangle stuff. And then we're going to be doing like some live rolls where we practice the techniques in a more live setting. That way we can troubleshoot, because even while drilling, some of the things that we ran into, it's very common. So you're definitely going to benefit from it. And I also have some exciting news. I have an MMA fight coming up. So that's super exciting. So I got up a little early today. It's Saturday, so I could film this to go do some rounds. And yeah, so you're gonna see the Sunday morning. So we're pretty much doing this at the same time, just, you know, different days. All right, step number one for the spiral armbar is getting over that far arm and leg in order to step over to set up your spiral armbar. And sometimes when we're doing things, the first step is like what we don't pay attention to. So you can either pin it down into an Americana, and when they fight it, then you can pin it to their chest to step over and secure this position. I personally like to grab my shin just in case things get a little wily. You can transition to the later techniques that we're going to show later on in the video. So here I like to keep a tight, think about this, all right, actually look at this. Look about what's going to happen right here. So do you see how he's about to step over? Like sometimes we think about like, okay, yeah, the most loud thing, but sometimes the subtle things are the things that actually let us make the technique happen. So before you step over, remember that you're going to have to contend with their far arm and their near side knee. That's going to be the thing that's going to be blocking you from the step over, which is why you can pin the knees, which I'll show, or you can pin the hand, which is what we're working on here. So you can pin the hand to the floor in Americana to step over, or you can pin it to their chest to step over. Here, I'm going to give you pressure tips to help you get more submissions, because pressure, my friends, makes everything easier. Now, before you get any attacks, it's important to get a good side control. And for that, I love using shoulder pressure. You can see just by the look on his face that the shoulder pressure is working. And what this does is, it's the same thing as strikes. It's used to soften them up and also distract. That way you can get underneath their elbow and get inside position to get them on your lap. Do you see how I'm pulling him into me to sit on my lap like I'm Santa and it's Christmas morning? From this very controlling side control, then you can transition to any of your attacks. Here we're doing the spiral armbar, but that controlling perfecting the pressure of a side control, it's like, it gives you so many more openings, because then you can have all of your attacks from side control. And I remember my first coach, he's like, you know, you want to give them so much pressure that they are going to be begging you to just submit me and get it over with, because they are in so much discomfort. So that is the primary goal here. So you can isolate the arm by threatening to attack the near side arm. If they're being a real pain, here we're doing a little competition of like what's stronger, your arm or basically my full weight on the arm. It's coming up right here. So here you can see the transition to get him up on my lap. And do you see how I'm using my legs to scoop up his arm? This little transition is really slick. And I'm using a gable grip to get him on his side. And then also, you see that lap position? That is where you want to be. And do you see how he has his hand on my shoulder? That's telling you, anytime they put their hand on your shoulder like that, that's telling you that they are experiencing the pressure and are trying to relieve it by grabbing your shoulder to relieve the pressure on their neck. So it's great because if you're trying to do something and they're reacting to the pressure, that's going to give you more openings. And here, a little added benefit, you can squeeze the neck on either side. So you can add a little chokiness to the armbar. So we're playing a little game of can I pin his arm? And this is the point of like leverage. So right now I'm basically doing a push-up on his arm. So anytime that you can especially like straighten the limb and get all of your weight on it, you're going to be stronger because you're using your entire body weight versus one of their extremities. Okay, this is cool. Look at this. So here we're going to go from side control to a mounted triangle. And pay attention to his toes. Do you see how he curls his toe? We're gonna talk about that later too. But here, one huge point is another way to get here, to step over besides isolating the arm, is isolating the knee. Here, do you see where I place my knee? A lot of people will place the knee on the hip, on your hip, because that is a technical side control safety position. So if they're any good, they're gonna go to a side control safety position because that's where you wanna be when you're on the bottom of side control. So you can use this knee push as a counter to their good position, which is, you know, one of the black belts, Alex, he's like, what I like to do is I like to mess with them to make them think what they're doing is wrong when in fact they're doing it right. So it's almost like a negative reinforcement to something positive that you should be doing. All right, so everything's the same. Get a nice inside position on that near arm. Make a couple jokes. You can pin the arm to step over. Shoot the leg through, that way there's no space, and then curl the legs under. And then the reason why I'm doing a wide base with my hands is because sometimes...
Out of control, but you're Because when you go to save the arm, because you're an Americana, you see down.
Yeah, you try to tell me what to do.
Sorry.
You should be focused on saving your arm, not me, okay?
Now what you want to do
Just
next?
choke me. I want you to break
Yeah,
an arm.
explain.
Break my neck.
Worry about yourself, okay?
So basically, yeah, so basically during the transition, you know, you can, from mount, you can pin their arm to the ground as if you're going for an Americana, and then when they save it, get the underhook. We're gonna go through that live to see how that goes for me. But yeah, he was trying to tell me what to do, and he wasn't like reacting to what he was supposed to try to save his arm, but instead of telling me what to do. So of course, you know. All right, let's try this out live and do some troubleshooting. All right, first we'll watch Peter try to get a mounted triangle as I'm trying to escape, and I end up escaping and regaining guard. Do you know what happened? This happens frequently. Okay, so when you are swimming for that arm, which is key, you want to be getting to high mount. Do you see during the transition when Peter was trying to trap my other arm to step over, he left his left leg low and straight. Because the left leg was low and straight, I was able to capture the leg and transition from half guard to full guard. The key to not have that happen to you, or decrease the frequency of having that happen, is after you trap that arm, make sure you are sliding both of your knees up to their armpit. If you leave one of your legs, the opposite side that you have the arm trapped, if you leave that leg long and near their legs, they will trap it. They have a higher, like, you're leaving it there. You're leaving the door open for them to escape. And if you're rolling with somebody who has experience, they're gonna open that door, baby. They're gonna recognize that door and they're gonna open it. Yeah, I'm thinking right now of like a brown belt that always gets my leg, and I'm probably doing the same thing. So keep that in mind. If you're always having your leg trapped, get to a high mount, because then your legs will be nowhere near their legs, so it'll make it harder for them to capture your leg. All right, so I'm up, trying to get the mounted triangle on Peter. I go to isolate the arm, I get bridge and rolled, I still have the arm, and we end up with an armbar. So what exactly happened there? Because in jiu-jitsu, it's like, I remember when I was a blue belt, my coach telling me, Crystal, you know, you're trying to control too much. It's almost like I had something in my mind that I wanted to do, and I was almost like forcing the other person to comply with what I wanted. But in jiu-jitsu, as in life, you shouldn't force people to do things. You should just let them live. So that's like the difference between trying to have something in mind and forcing it to happen versus looking at what's open and what's available. In this instance, there was a transition where you isolate one of the arms and then they go to save it, and when they save it, typically there's an opening where you can swim under and isolate the arm that's closest to us, Peter's left arm. But I mean, if you're, you know, going live after you just drilled something and you're trying to hit that technique on that person, they're going to be specifically defending that. So like your chances of getting it decrease because they already have it in mind. Whereas if you're rolling with somebody that's, you know, unassuming, you'll probably have a higher percentage chance because they have no clue what you're going for. All right, Peter's up again. I clasp my arms, and this time I'm giving him a feed of keeping my shoulders really tight. And when this happens, it makes it difficult for the person to swim underneath to isolate one of the arms. You see how I'm leaving no space for him to get an arm underneath? And this is a good exercise because it shows you how, you know how in jiu-jitsu they're like, keep your enemies close and your elbows closer? Well, this is exactly why. It's you don't give up as many opportunities for them to attack if you have less space for them to attack. You can see I'm creating a frame and then getting that leg trapped between mine. This is also a really good exercise for your escapes as well. All right, so this next one, you see, he improves by getting a high mount. However, I kept my elbows on the inside of his legs. So there needs to be an arm isolated first before you try to step up to get a mounted triangle. If you don't isolate an arm, like my left arm should have been isolated, that way he could step over with his left leg, but because that arm wasn't isolated, I could then slip out underneath. Otherwise, my left armpit would have been jammed up against his thigh if my arm was trapped. So in my instructional, like I mentioned how like isolating that arm is like your lifeline when you're trying to attack a mounted triangle or even do like the spiral armbar. If you can't get their elbows up off of their chest to isolate or to swim in, then the move isn't there. Sometimes go the path of least resistance, baby. So I am up again. I'm going to see if I can try to get this arm isolation thing to work, and I try to manipulate his head to see if maybe that'll help decrease the effectiveness of his bridge.
Yeah. Oh, she wants it. The engine beater. I'm calling it. Good job.
And it did not, so. I was like, I'm gonna get that head one way or another. So yeah, so if you look at this again, I tried to go with the arm isolation instead of going for what I typically do when I'm rolling. And I thought you have to try different things. Like there's your A game and then there's other ways of doing things. And if you never try new ways of doing things, then your game never progresses, and it's okay for things not to work. You know what I'm saying? Like, so here I'm grabbing on his head, and sometimes if you can manipulate, the spine, you can decrease the effectiveness of, let's say, their bridge. So I was just trying that out. So it's either, it's something that I need to work on. I need to figure that out. Why could he bridge and roll so effectively, even though I was like trying to manipulate his head? All right, so lastly, Peter is trying the entry from side control that you saw in the beginning with the step over to isolate the far arm and then step over. And I want you to figure out, if you know, comment below, but can you tell me why it didn't work? Ooh, that was a good foot shimmy. And now he knows, he's like, shit, okay, I have the triangle, you know, around, but now I need the arm, and I tuck it underneath his leg to hide it. And then my coach is making some joke about my potato picking strength because I'm from northern Maine. I used to pick potatoes when I was in high school for 2 weeks out of the year. So remember how I was telling you, like, sometimes the first steps are the most important, but I don't know, sometimes in jiu-jitsu you're like, okay, let's get to the good part. Let's get to like the choking part. But then it's like, how are we going to get to step 5 if we don't do step 1? You know, if anything, the first steps should be what we're drilling, because if we can't get there, like, you can't just jump. Like, okay, I'm just going to be more efficient and skip steps 1 through 3 just so I can get to 4. Like, it's not. Yeah. Anytime that I've tried to do that and miss a step that my coach, that Nate tells me, like, it's never worked out for me. Like, maybe it works out for you, but for me, I've learned to do what my coach says, because they typically cut out all the fat for you, and every single step is important. So in this case, we needed to have inside position of that near side arm. So remember that position of like pulling them onto your lap? That is what creates the inside position to get inside their arm. That way their arm is trapped when you do the step over. So all of a sudden you're already in a triangle, a mounted triangle. So you have one arm in and one arm out. If you're going from a position where you're not on the inside of that elbow and you try to step over, you're just going to be stepping around their head, and then you're going to be like, oh crap, I need an arm. And if they know if they have experience, they'll know to hide that arm and what you're going for. You might get lucky on somebody with no experience that doesn't know anything about the mounted, triangle. You might get lucky. Watching. I'm gonna go do some jiu-jitsu on this beautiful Saturday morning. The sun has risen. Oh. All right, till next time. Love you. Bye.